Okay, I have a couple of housekeeping issues, not like cleanliness, but just kind of clean up some things. I know the textbook check for 1.5 closed for you guys. I got it fixed for everybody else because Mrs. Fennell let me know. But if you miss a textbook check due to my fault or because you're gone, you don't have to make those up. They don't count against you. Okay? And just because a textbook check doesn't work doesn't mean we don't do anything that day. Okay? So you guys have got to be using Canvas as your lifeline. Everything that's in Canvas will tell you what's going on. And if you look at Canvas on the calendar, sorry for my voice, it does say there's a textbook check today for 1/6. Okay? So don't be surprised when you come in you think it's different than it should be. If you looked at Canvas, you would know that and know what you have to be prepared for. Okay? So if you aren't right now doing that, you need to start because Canvas is your lifeline for the class. Calendar there. Everybody know how to get to the calendar in Canvas? Okay. Looking at the quizzes, I was pretty happy with a lot of you. The one thing I mentioned when we talked about CK12 being extra credit, when I told you that, I told everyone in here, you're going to want to do it because there's going to be a quiz you don't do well on, and you want the extra credit. In addition, when you call and say, or you ask me for help or what you can do, and I go back and look, and I see that you've not put the effort in of actually doing extra things I've given you, I'm not as likely to feel sympathy. Because doing that CK12 gives you practice, and when you practice, you get better at it, and so by doing your extra credit, it not only helps your grade, but you shouldn't do badly on a quiz because you've done the practice. Does that make sense? Okay? So it's totally up to you whether you want to do it or not. Okay? But when you don't have the grade you want, it's not my fault. I think in high school you've got to start getting used to the fact that your grade is not your teacher's fault. You are in charge of your own performance. Okay? And if you choose to put minimum effort in and you get a grade you don't like, maybe you need to change some habits that you have and change your work ethic a bit and not just sit back and say, I didn't understand it and she didn't help me. Well, did you come in for help? You know, I'm here in the mornings, and I'm here in the afternoons, and I'm here during interventions. And if you're not using your time to get help and you just think you've got to point some fingers at someone else and it's someone else's fault for your grade, this is the year that you're going to figure out you're in charge of your grade. It's going to be as good or bad as you make it. Okay? Now remember, with quizzes and tests, I do let you retake. Okay? I would recommend highly that you come in and go through it with me and not just retake it, because you're not going to know things all of a sudden now that you didn't know before if you haven't been working on things. So if you come in and work with me on it and retake it, I average the two scores. If the average is still not passing, I will give you a passing score if you pass the retake. Does that make sense? So right now passing is 65, and if your grade was less than a 65 and I average the two together, and it puts you less than a 65 now, with the average, I'll still give you the 65. Okay? So I'm not going to fail you for coming in to retake if you can pass the retake. Make sense? Okay? So we're going to do 1-6, 1-7, 1-8, 1-9. Then we have a quiz on 1-6 through 1-9. That'll be next week. And then 1-10 is the last section of the chapter, and then we'll go through and do a review for the chapter test. Okay? 1-5 web work is due tonight at midnight. Okay? 1-6 web work will be tomorrow night at midnight. And after we go through 1-6 textbook check, I would be happy to help with any questions you have on 1-5 since I was gone. Yes?
The CK12 is just due before the test?
Yes. Yep.
Do you know how many people did the CK12?
Maybe half. Yeah. They're gifts. People who did well on the quiz and did their CK12, I've got people with over 100% in this class right now. So, you know, it's not that, you know, everybody's got a 63 or something. I've got lots of good grades in here. Yeah, and the CK12, in order to get full credit for it, if you want full credit for 1-6, and there are 3, you must do all 3, or you get 0. Okay, if you just do one of the three, I don't give partial for each section. Does that make sense? I will give partial if you do, let's say there's 4 sections, 1, 6, 7, 8, 9, before the next quiz, and you did all of 1, 6. Well, then you'll get 2.5 points added to your quiz, or 0.25. A quarter of a tenth of a percent. That makes sense. Okay, so make sure you're doing all of them for every section if you want full credit for your extra credit. Okay, questions? I know I was gone 3 days last week, and if you've got questions on 1.3 and 1.4, if you still didn't get those turned in to 100% and it was because you weren't understanding something, come see me. I'm very flexible. If it's because you didn't understand something and I wasn't here to help. Tristan, I think we emailed back and forth while I was at the conference, and I emailed you a suggestion on how to finish a problem, and you got it right. Yep. So if you're not reaching out to me and letting me know what you don't get, I can't read your mind. I don't know what you don't get. Okay, and if you just come in and say, I don't get it, well, I'm going to ask you, what don't you get? And did you watch the videos? Because the video may have explained it. And if you didn't, I'm going to make you go back and watch the video. Did you watch the recording of what I put together if you missed that day? I'm going to make you go back and watch it. I'm trying to train you to use your resources. Okay? It might be painful and it might be different than you've been used to in middle school, those of you who are younger. Okay? But the reason is, when you get to college, you have to use your resources. The teacher will not give you what you need, I guarantee it. They'll have a 30-minute window of office hours outside of class, and more than likely that window is falling in a lab that you have to attend, and you can never make it to see them. Okay, so if you aren't taking accountability and starting to be in charge of your own learning, you're not going to be successful in college. Okay, or whatever you choose to do after high school. Okay, it's up to you at this point. And it may be a tough learning curve for a bit, but I guarantee you ask any of my seniors that went through this for 4 years, they will tell you now they know where to go for help. They know what videos to search for when they don't get something. They are on their own in college right now being successful. Alex has a Chinese-speaking chemistry teacher. She cannot understand a word he says. And it's not unusual. Okay, she could go in for help and she wouldn't understand a word he says. So do you think that she's got to take some responsibility for her learning if she wants to be successful? She can't just shrug her shoulders and say, well, I don't understand him, so it's his fault. Nobody cares. You're going to get the grade that you put the work in to get. Okay, so you've got to find resources on your own that you can go, whether it's someone who's already taken the class, whether it's a series of videos. There's so many videos online on how to do complicated things that you can stop and you can try the problem on your own, and then you can start again and watch how they do it, and then figure out what you aren't getting and stop it again and try it again. These are all strategies you guys have to use, okay, to be successful. All right, so this process that we're doing is going to train you to be able to do this on your own. Okay, so it's no more finger pointing. From now on, the finger points back to you. You are in charge of your own grade. Okay? Questions? So if you are not happy with your quiz grade, because I was gone last week, and I will do this routinely, if we have a quiz toward the end of the week and you haven't had an opportunity to retake it, and that quiz caused your grade to tank, I will not put the quiz in the grade book in Infinite Campus until you've had an opportunity to make it up and retake it. Okay? I'm not out here trying to get kids. That's not my goal. I want you guys to learn, and I don't want to punish you for me being gone. Okay? So if you are in that boat and you took a quiz and your Canvas grade is lower than Infinite Campus, that's because I disregarded that quiz for this week. But that means you must come in and retake it this week if you want next week's grade to be passing. All right? Okay, so we've been working on equations and solving equations, and now we're moving on to inequalities. And again, this whole chapter should be review of Algebra 1. Really should. We did solving equations and inequalities and even probably 7th and 8th grade math, and then on to Algebra 1. So this first question is just trying to see whether you understand how you draw an inequality. So if it's less than or equal to, what should this circle have? Should it be an open circle or a closed circle? Closed. So anytime there's an or equal, it's always filled in. If it's open, like this one is, this would be x is less than 56, not less than or equal to. Okay, so that's false. One of the important concepts discussed in 1.6 was, when multiplying or dividing by a negative number, you must flip the inequality sign. Multiplying by the least common denominator. Using the distributive property with inequalities, or when graphing an inequality with the symbol of greater than or equal to, the circle should not be filled. Well, we know that the last one's not it, right? Because if it's or equal to, it must be filled. What do you think? Looking back, even if you didn't do this, watch the videos, which you need to do if you haven't done. But looking back at what you know about inequalities, what's something important that a lot of students miss when you're solving? No? Flipping the sign when you divide or multiply by a negative. Okay, you've got to remember, if you come down to the very last part, and I've got this, what do I have to do to get x by itself? I divide by -1, and that becomes that. Anytime you divide by negative, you've got to flip the sign. Okay, you have to remember that. Question 3. When graphing a greater than or equal to inequality, the circle should be filled, closed. A dash circle? Really? Who did the videos in this section? Khan Academy, I heard. What did you say? Khan Academy. And question 5, this symbol stands for less than or equal to. Okay? Who is not finished with 1.5? Okay? Who has a problem that's causing you stress and that you'd like to get some help with? Okay? Malai? Give it to me. This is the problem? Can I borrow this? You what? You can't find your what? Now go to assignments. Okay. When you're doing a problem with lots of orders of operations, using PEMDAS, what's the first thing that you do? Parentheses. Brackets and parentheses are the same. When you're doing a problem like this, you always start inside first and work your way out. So here, I need to distribute, right? Minus 12 plus 3y. Right? When I distribute the -3 to 4, I get -12. When I distribute the -3 to -y, I get positive 3y. You with me? And then here, I distribute the -5 in. I get that. My parentheses on the right are now gone. On the left, I still have one. So what I'm going to do first is simplify what's inside. 5 minus 12 is -7. And here I can simplify 4 minus 15 is negative 11. Everybody still with me? Okay. Now I've got to distribute the negative 5 in. Minus 15y. Now my parentheses are gone. I've simplified both sides as well as I can. What's the next step? Get the y's on the same side and the non-y's on the same side. So I'm going to pull this over by adding, right? And I'm going to subtract 35. And that's negative 46. Right? And now how do I solve? These cancel, right? Negative divided by negative. In WebWork, most of the time, they want you to put fractions in because this will not be a terminating number. Did you get it? Stephen, you had one too? Okay, I want to teach you a fraction trick. Hopefully that excites everybody to look up and pay attention. Let's say I had this problem. This is not the problem we're doing, but I'm trying to simplify it for you to see if you can put it into something that maybe you understand at this point. One way to solve this problem is to find a common denominator. And how do I do that? How do I find common denominators?
Okay, so you need to find out what 7, 4, and 3 all go into.
Equally.
Equal.
Perfect.
So they all go into 28.
Well, 3 doesn't go into 28. So if you can't think of a number that they all go into, one way you can do it is just multiply them all together, right? So what is 7 times 4 times 3?
84.
Okay. So I've identified 84 as my common denominator. Now, when we learned fractions back in 5th grade, okay, the way we solved a problem like this, not that you probably had something as complicated as this in 5th grade, but the way we solved it is we got each of these fractions with the denominator of 84, right? And then once they were all with the same denominator, we could just subtract across. There should be really maybe an x here, sorry, because we don't know what that number is. And then we just add them all up, or subtract them, right? Now, what I want to show you is something that I use because I don't like fractions any more than you do. Okay, so the first thing I always do on a fraction problem is get rid of the denominator. So it's just a normal problem with or with just integers. I don't have to worry about fractions. Okay, and to do that, you find the common denominator. We did 84, and you're going to multiply everything in this, every term in this equation by 84. And by doing that, you're going to eliminate your denominators, and you aren't going to have to worry about them. Okay? So looking at the first one, and this goes back to the commutative property, I'm just multiplying it by each term. Can I rewrite this as that? Does order matter with multiplication? No, commutative property says I can. This is what I do in my head. I don't write it this way anymore because I've done it enough. When I see a fraction multiplied by a fraction, I know 84 over 7 is the same as 84 over 1 times 2 over 7. Well, I know 7 goes into 84 because that's my common denominator. and it goes in 12 times, because 12 times 7 is 84, right? So when 84 over 7 is 12, times 2 is 24. So this 2/7 I just made 24 by multiplying it by 84. You with me? It goes fast the more you practice it. But I promise getting rid of the fractions right off the bat is going to make your life a lot easier. Okay? 84 over 4. Well, it's got to be equal to 21, because 21 times 4 is 84, right? So 84 over 4 is 21. 21 times 3 is negative 63. You with me on this strategy, I'm hoping? Okay, and the last one, 84 over 3, 28, because 7 times 4 times 3 was 84, so it must be 28, and times x. Is this easier than this? Yeah. Getting rid of those fractions is a nice strategy. Okay, now we can do the same thing with the problem we started with. And I use the same denominator, so we know the common denominator here is 84. Right? So I'm going to multiply every term in this equation by 84. 84 over 7 is 12. I still have this 2h minus 8 that I have to figure out. So I've got to write it in parentheses because the 12 has got to be multiplied by both terms. 84 divided by 4, 21. 84 divided by 3, 28. 28 times 7, I don't know. 14 and 5 is 19. So I just multiplied 7/3 by 84. 84 over 3 is 28 times 7. You with me? Now, it's still kind of complicated, but it's nowhere near what it was. Now the thing that'll get you is not distributing correctly. Okay? 12 times 2, 12 times 8, right? 21 times 1, and this is negative 21 times negative 3. Make sure you distribute everything through. And now I can combine my like terms. 24 and 63. 96 and 21 both negative. What is that? 117? Is that right? I don't know if it's reducible, but try that. Yeah? Okay, now this is a good example of when you might want to come back and watch this video. Because if you go home tonight and you're still struggling on a problem like this, you can go through and start the video I just did this problem on. You can stop it, right? And then you can try it on your own, following the steps I laid out. Then you can start it again, see how you did, stop it, go back if you need to. Use these resources if you still struggle. Okay? Did that help, Sam?
just confused because, like, on the first one, I just don't know when to, like, what to multiply it by.
7 times 5 times 3 was 105? Okay, so 105 divided by 7 must be 15. So you're going to take 15 times 3q minus 1. And then you're going to subtract, and then you're going to do the same thing here. 105 divided by 5 is 21. So you're going to do 21 times 1 minus 4q. And then you have to do 105 divided by 3, which should be 35, times 5. Okay? Okay, any other questions from 1.5? Everybody close to finishing, if not done? Okay, so in class today, start working on 1.6 problems, and I'll come around and help if you need it.